It's the end of Grease-tober week 2, and here's what I've managed to make in my attempt to learn grease pencil over the course of a singular month, and how to combine it with geometry nodes, which as a technical artist is my preferred method of using Blender. Starting off with Saturday the 4th, the prompt was murky, and I wanted to create a swamp. However, all I managed to make was a cattail solver, which I think is a pretty decent achievement. I wanted to have some random values for each of our cattails, but we can't use the index node. If we did, anytime we erased one of our strokes, all of the cattails would change their parameters, and that just doesn't work for me. So instead, we're going to use the position to create a random value. This is also not perfect, but it works well enough, and given that each one is a hand-drawn stroke, they all look pretty random to me, and I love that. And there we have it, we have a cattail solver. Sunday the 5th, the prompt was deer, and deer make me think of antlers, and I thought it would be super fun to make an antler solver. Partially because, I've already made a mustache solver, and how different could the two be? Both biologically, they're both basically just hair. And I figured we could use the same node. In my last video, day 1, the prompt was mustache, and so I made this solver that takes a graph of a bunch of grease pencil strokes so that we can make a bunch of custom mustaches with very little effort. So we'll adapt this node so that all of the splines rotate around our input curve, add in a guide geometry, and draw our antlers onto it. And there we go, handcrafted antlers. Moving on to Monday the 6th, the prompt was pierce, which, thinking outside the box for a hot minute, I decided why not draw a giant tree? I thought it'd be fun, giant tree, just piercing the sky, right? Right. And so, hey, we're gonna do a lot of building on what we've learned in the previous days. We're going to use the same mustache antler solver, but add in some leaf instances so that we can fill out the crown of our tree. The big thing for this is going to be, how do we draw a tree in 3D? Usually when I draw with the grease pencil, I have flat planes because, well, it's easiest to go into the side view. So I created some guide geometry that follows along our spline and allows us to draw directly on it. We can even change the index of the curve so that we can draw branches off of the branches, and then, wow, we have a 3D tree. Filled in the scene a little bit with some extra stuff that I drew, and wow, it's not my favorite piece of art, but hey, I'm still pretty happy with it. Then, hey, listen, this video is already late. I wanted it to come out on Friday. One of the things holding me back is that I had nothing to present for 7 or 8. It's not that I made nothing, it's that none of it was good. I couldn't decide on a single prompt. I made several different attempts. There was no finished piece, and instead of throwing in the towel, saying everything's bad, and giving up on the entire challenge, I just decided, hey, you missed these days. That sucks. We move on. So moving on to Thursday the 9th, we have a prompt of heavy. And you know what the heaviest thing is? The sun, which is a lot. So we're gonna draw the second heaviest thing, Jupiter, or at least a planet inspired by Jupiter. This was really fun because I knew I didn't want to actually use the grease pencil strokes for this one. So instead, we're going to create a bunch of ribbons of geometry by using the curve to mesh node to make, well, ribbons out of our curves. Once again, we're going to use a guide geometry to set the radius of a sphere so that we can have some interesting offset and just create a bunch of ribbons to represent the banding of the atmosphere of Jupiter. We needed some randomness per spline to get all of the color, had some fun with the lighting, and there we go. We have Jupiter, all drawn by hand and in a really fun way. Then last but certainly not least, because we're finally getting into some animation, Friday the 10th's prompt was sweep. And sticking with a bit of a space theme, I decided, why don't we make a comet sweeping across the sky? I do have ulterior motives, because guess what? We can use the same node group as we did for our mustache tree antler solver to make a comet. We just add a couple of inputs so that we can adjust the radius along the spline, and then wow, we have the tail of a comet. Then we can use the trim curve node to animate all of our splines using, some time and some math. We'll animate the start and end positions respectively, join those together, give it a little bit of radius and some color, and wow, we have a comet tail. Added in a dinky looking little space rock, and that is day 10 all done and dusted, meaning that we have finished week 2 of Grease-tober. Some more technical details are available in my blog on my Patreon, and my solid supporters over there have access to all of these blend files. Which, speaking of, thank you to everyone over there on Patreon. You guys are fantastic, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye.